Hello, hello. This is Sheri from the Sheri K. Hoff Show, where we focus on living joyfully in your life and business. You can reach us at sherikhoff.com. That's SherikayEhoff.com. Jessica Eastman Stewart is the founder of Joyfully Managed Team. She's a former nonprofit executive who now helps leaders of teams lead with more ease and joy. Hi, Jessica. It's so great to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Sheri.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. So for people who like to sort of have what are they going to talk about today? We're going to talk about ways to balance work and life and some really fantastic ways to do that. So Jessica, when you talk about this framework, one of the things that you discuss is how important it is to give up the guilt. And I know a lot of people feel guilty out there, a lot of moms, a lot of people carry around guilt. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like work-life balance has been a huge part of just the collective conversation, especially over the last few years when so many people, life and work got so melded together as we were like stuck inside. So I think when it comes to giving up the guilt, I think it's just really important for folks to realize a couple of things. One is that you are never going to be balanced with all the things at the same time, right? And so you are not going to be a person who makes a home cooked meal, goes for a run, reads a book a week, is doing an amazing job at work, being a great friend, being an incredible partner, kicking butt, raising your kids, volunteering at the animal shelter, and staying updated on current events and getting a good night's sleep all at the same time. You just can't do all of those things at the same time. So the fact that it's impossible, I think, is freeing for all of us to know that we can't actually do all those things. We have to be clear on what matters to us. And I think that, there's that meme or that phrase that I feel like I've heard before, which is, especially when it relates to working moms, society expects us to work like we have no kids and parent like we have no jobs. So that societal message and our own internal, insecurities can make it feel like we should be doing a perfect job at this one thing and this other thing, when the reality is that's not humanly possible, to pretend like either doesn't exist. And when actually the research is pretty clear, there's a decent amount of academic research saying that kids of working parents grow into really happy adults. And in fact, those kids usually make more money when they grow up. Both the young men and the young women, having seen that model in their own moms in particular. So, dropping the guilt that we can be expected to do it all is, to me, really freeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that because I remember, I think this was like 16 years ago or so, when I looked at my schedule and everything that I did, everything that was on my schedule, everything that I was working on. And I was one of those people who I worked full time, traveled for my job, was a mom. And I also was getting my master's degree at that time. Ooh. And when I actually looked at the time, actually how much time was available, even if I squished my sleep down to about 5 hours, which wasn't ideal, I didn't have time to do everything that I actually was doing. Like there was no human possible way that I could do all that. And when I saw that, I was like, I was superintendent of Sunday school. I mean, it's just like, wow. I just was involved in so much. And when I realized that and I thought, well, that's why I'm so tired. There just aren't that many hours. And so, people look at oftentimes at time management as, I got to get better at managing my time. But there is a point where time runs out. I mean, there isn't enough time. So it isn't just managing the day. It's really looking at what's important to you. And, I'm one of those people that if I'm working on a big project, I'll let the dishes pile up a little bit because I don't have that, my kitchen must be spotless. And I do love clear countertops and dishes done all the time. And they're mostly done all the time. But if I have to focus on something, I'm willing to see what's the most important, or if a kid is sick and I'm, trying to work and take care of a child. Now my kids are all grown, but I have always been able to do that. And a lot of people can't, they have that, my house, my mom was a stay-at-home mom for the most part. She worked a little here or there, but, so my standard for my house could never be the standard she had for her house. I remember the first house I had, she visited and she ran her hand along like the ledge of the window. And of course there was dust there. Who thinks of dusting that? Now I just have a cleaning person who does that for me, but I just was doing other things. That wasn't my high priority thing.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, if we really get in touch with what we care about deeply, I don't think that many of us would put dust-free windowsills on our list of what is important in our lives. So if we are trying to live up to expectations, let's make sure there are expectations. They're not something that we are letting be put on us externally by other people or by this general idea of what should be true. Because for sure, not everything can be important. It's just really important to get clear on what matters to you so that you can prioritize that. Because if you don't mind the dishes piling up, either all the time, if some people might just say, you know what, I don't mind. It doesn't stress me out at all. And I just do them twice a week, whenever the counter gets full. If that's working for you, then let that be the thing and prioritize something you do care about. And for other folks, I like to get the dishes done too. But last night, I just told my husband, you know what, we're just going to do that tomorrow because I was really tired. It was just an unexpected thing. We had to work on something together late at night when we normally do it. And I wasn't willing to give up sleep for that. And so I just let it go. And it was fine. Guess what? Today is fine. There's still a pot in my sink. It's not clean. It's fine. Here I am having a lovely conversation with you. And it's fine.
I love that. So everyone, you have permission. So just receive that, take that in. And what a great point to start with. I just love that. So, what is the next thing that we should be looking at? You talk about the most important ways to create this, balance, which is sort of an illusion, but we can be balanced sometimes.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be balanced all the time. So what's next?
I think the next thing we should talk about is just dropping things. And because it really connects to what we were just talking about, dropping things and recognizing that life is a series of chapters and you can't do all those things at the same time. So what I mean here is specifically naming things that you are not going to prioritize in a given chapter of your life. So I'll give a couple examples from my own life. I was a kid who loved to read. I'm an adult who really likes to read. But when my kiddos were little, I felt really guilty and kind of embarrassed that I wasn't reading. I was like, well, I read Facebook, but I wasn't reading books, or maybe I'd read one book a year if, somebody gave it to me or something. And I felt kind of guilty. But at some point I just said, you know what? I am not a person who can prioritize reading right now. And it will probably come back to my life at some point. And you know what? It actually has. My kids are a little older and I read again. I love reading again. But it was such a huge weight off my shoulders to simply write myself that permission slip. I give you permission to not read books right now. Another thing was that I felt bad about not dressing in a cute, stylish way. I was, running a nonprofit and I would basically just wear black flats, black slacks, and a shirt of some sort, some sort of blouse every day. And I would see other people dressed with cute belt, or like, look at those adorable shoes, or like, look how your earrings match. And I've been wearing these same like studs for 2 weeks straight, And I just remember saying, you know what? Right now, I'm just going to dress in a way that is acceptable. And maybe one day I will care about that. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I will never care about that. Some people might say, I don't like to read at all. And they could say, I'm going to stop feeling bad about that. That's just who I am. Another example of something that I don't think will change about me is, at some point I got this idea that I should be taking my children hiking. That was like what a good parents do. It's like go hiking and, like go to nature all the time. And it turns out I don't really like that. It's not that I don't like hiking at all. Like, if sometimes our friends will invite us to go and I'll enjoy it, but I'm not the kind of person that wakes up and is like, you know what I really want to do today is hike. Like, it doesn't occur to me. It's not really my thing. So at some point I was like setting maybe we should set a goal to do 10 hikes this year. And now I know enough to say like, no, that's not the right goal for us. We're not those people, maybe you're not somebody who cooks your own dinner. And if you can find a solution to feed yourself that is different than you cooking your own dinner, if you hate cooking, or if it just doesn't work in your life, and it can be forever, it can be for a chapter. And a chapter could be like while we have toddlers and babies. A chapter could be the next 2.5 months when, it's football season and our kids are playing football, or our kids are doing baseball every day. Like if you have kids doing like daily sports, cooking a home cooked meal every night, that's going to be really hard to make happen. Like if you really want to prioritize it, you probably can. They're going to have to give up some other things in order to do it. But if that's stressing you out, you can just say, you know what, for this chapter, it is okay that we pick up like burritos and McDonald's, or eat like sandwiches in the car, because that is the chapter we're in, and it is okay. And we're just going to let that be okay. So just giving yourself permission to say, this is what matters to me. And I'm going to drop these other things that don't. This is not my year to be president of the PTA while I'm supporting my elderly parents. This is not the year for the kids to do soccer and gymnastics and taekwondo and art classes while the other kid is doing travel baseball. We can't do it all, So figuring out like what, you don't have to say yes to everything, and it will be too much to try. So figuring out, what do you really care about? And then just letting that be okay for this season. It's okay. And live in that season. And then know that can always change. You can just say, I can't wait till we're back to the season where I cook dinners again. Okay. But we're not there right now.
Yeah. So is that what you mean by deprioritize?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Like deprioritize, like what really doesn't matter. And say, we're just dropping that for a while, because the thing we're prioritizing is sleep, or the thing we're prioritizing is dinners at home, because let's say you wanted to prioritize dinners at home, that might not work with the kids doing 4 after school activities, right? If you want to prioritize going for runs, that might make it hard to prioritize reading 52 books this year, like it's just, you have to pick. And so letting it be okay to say, that's not my season right now, and just living in the season that you are in.
And before we hopped on here, we were talking about joy and ease, and that is just such a joyful and way to have ease in your life, to approach it that way. And, sometimes society doesn't help. Like I remember someone was talking to my son, who he's the youngest, he's 22 now, but this was just a couple years ago. And he was asked, so did you have sit down dinners with your family when you were growing up? And he went, I can't remember. I was floored when he said that, because, we have always tried to do Sunday night dinners, but then I looked at him and I said, well, we ran constantly. How did you think we were going to get food into people? It's like, we're supposed to get everyone together at 6 o'clock when, one kid's at, dance until 9 o'clock. And, And I had to let go of that feeling of like embarrassment when he was just like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't remember, you know, and he was
Right.
just a guy who's like, but then I thought, obviously the way he said it, he wasn't like, oh yeah, man, I never had food to eat. He
Right.
wasn't,
Or I never
he-
spent quality time with my family. I didn't feel loved.
exactly.
It wasn't any of that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So, so you also talk about systems, building
Yeah.
systems. So how does that help in balancing life and work?
Yeah. I think systems are something that can create so much joy and ease, especially ease if you get them right. And so there's a couple of systems that I recommend for basically any home, whether or not there's children, whether or not it's just one person or a whole big family. I think these can really make a difference. So the first one is figuring out what are the couple of things, no more than five, um, 2 to 5 things that really need to get done to keep your household running in a given day. And getting that list together, when we first started this system in my family, we called it the Daily Five. And we literally put a Post-it on the refrigerator with the 5 things so we could remember them. We still have it up, even though it's pretty baked into our brain to this point, because we started this 6 years ago when my second was a newborn. And we just were figuring, we just were hitting a place where it felt like everything was falling apart. Life had transitioned. We went from having 1 kid to having 2 kids, and we just had too much going on, and it felt like things were falling through the cracks. So we had to really essentialize what is important. And we made our list of like, well, every day we can't do all the things in our house, but we need to do a couple things. And if we can do these, the house will at least function at a basic level. So for us, that was things like loading the dishwasher and running it, packing the lunches for the next day. My husband and I were both working outside of the house, and the kids were going to daycare. So we needed lunches. Washing the breast pump and getting all the milk ready to go to daycare the next day, and taking out the trash. And if we did those things, then our home could function. And so every day, and we used kind of the concept of habit stacking, which I now have the language for. I didn't at the time. But basically, we would put the kids to bed and then do these 5 things. The 2 of us together would just like go and immediately make sure that all these things got done. And that was great because habit stacking, essentially saying this is the new habit I want to build, is like doing these things at this time of day, adding it onto a habit that was already baked in, which for parents with little kids, bedtime is an easy habit because you literally never forget it. You literally can't
Right.
skip it. Like kids got to get put to bed. You're not going to forget to do that,
Right.
So kids get put to bed, and immediately after, the other one was a litter box for us. And so those 5 things, and we would just do those each day. And that meant that, sometimes the living room didn't get tidied up. And sometimes, there were other things that needed to get done. And they didn't, we didn't always open the mail. We didn't always do this, but those 5 things really mattered for us. And then once that started working well for us, we actually added a weekly list onto it, which meant essentially we added one thing each day that needed to happen weekly. So we basically said, okay, Monday we'll wash towels. Friday we'll wash seats. Wednesday we'll wash the kids' laundry. And Thursday night we have to take the trash cans to the curb. And we added in things that didn't need to be done daily, but did need to happen, right? Like we really do need to remember to put the trash by the curb. And so that weekly list and the daily list allowed us to get clear on what really matters and bake it into our brains and have it posted so that it was easy to execute and it didn't require a lot of brain energy. And it allowed us to not have to keep deciding over and over, am I going to do this stuff? We just would do it, and it wouldn't take us that long. And our home could stay at least at a minimum level of functioning at all times.
I love that. I really love that. And one thing I love so much about it is 5 things has a start and an end to it, where when you look at an entire household, it's really a never ending thing. Like laundry,
quote unquote, clean the house.
Means
could be
what?
everything.
Yeah.
Right. Organize the Legos? Like, absolutely not.
It's the same with business. Like, a lot of business people are listen to this podcast, and the idea of like, they'll put something like work on marketing. Well, that could be, 2000 hours, right? So what
Right.
about marketing are you choosing to do every day? Um,
Right.
so yeah, I really, really love that. So thank you for sharing that. And, I'm a systems person when it comes to everything. Um, Okay, so your last one here that we're going to talk about today is delegating more. And we hear about
Yeah.
that, and people often say to me, I need to delegate more. I know I need to delegate more, but then they don't do it, or they
Yep.
wonder what it is and how to do it, and why are we so resistant to delegating?
Right. Well, first, I think one thing is to realize that we already all are doing it. If somebody says like, I'm not good at delegating, like you already are delegating. You are probably not like, raising chickens for meat and eggs and raising cows for your milk and like sewing your own clothes that you grew the cotton for, right? Like you are delegating, you're paying people to make your clothes, you're paying people to grow your food. So if folks are thinking like, oh, I'm not the kind of person who has the privilege of delegating, or I don't feel comfortable doing that, or if you have any sort of mindset issues around that, just remember like, you are certainly already doing some delegation. And the question is, what could you delegate more? And I think that is in that, it's what can you give to someone else that would support them, and is not the stuff that you can uniquely do. And so it looks really different. At work, I have been using a virtual assistant since 2016, and it has been a total game changer for my ability to be effective at work. To get and it just really supercharges my business. So I love that. And I love, and I know a lot of folks have lots of questions about virtual assistants. We could talk about that more if it's helpful. But at home too, grocery delivery is like a pretty affordable thing to get off your plate. And it takes significantly less time on an app to like search for the word apples, add them to your cart, than it does to like go to a store. So that's an example of one that if you're not already doing that, I actually like grocery shopping, but I still delegate that and get groceries delivered just because it is such an affordable, easy thing to delegate. Whereas, some of the other things I could delegate are a little trickier. But, you can delegate school pickup and drop off. If you've got the resources to pay for it, there are ways to do that. You can collaborate with neighbors who live nearby to do that. You can certainly delegate house cleaning. We have a neighbor who comes to our home and cleans, and she does an incredible job. It's amazing to get to support her, and it makes a huge difference. And also allow yourself to think outside the box about what that even means. I have a friend who's got somebody who was cleaning their home, but now comes in the morning and like gets breakfast ready for the kids because that supports their family in a way, and our house cleaner actually puts away our laundry, which is probably my least favorite chore on the whole list of chores. And so I asked her, like, would you be willing to do this? I will pay you more to do it. And she was excited about adding that to the list. And it is like maybe my favorite thing that I spend money on in a given month is that my laundry gets put away by somebody that's not me. I actually hired one of our neighbors who is a high schooler once to put our stamps and addresses on our holiday cards. And it was amazing. And
I
now
love
you can,
it.
just upload a spreadsheet and do that. Lawn care is a good example, but there are so many ways to delegate things. And at work, if you are working with a team, you could ask your team for ideas. I've actually done this before, saying like, I know that as an executive, I can have some blind spots in what I'm still spending my time on. Like, are there things that you collectively as my team see me spending time on that you think I should be delegating to one of you? And my team identified plenty of things like, why are you planning the weekly team meeting? I can do that. Why are you doing that? I can do that for you too. And it not only got things off my plate so I could do what I uniquely needed to do, which included getting barriers out of the way for my team, So they're like, I'm waiting for feedback from you on this document because you're over here planning the team meeting, which he should be doing, and it gave leadership opportunities to my team who were excited to say, oh, the executive director used to do that and now I do it. It was exciting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's many ways to think about delegation, but the more you can delegate, the more you will be able to find that balance.
Yeah, one thing that I love is I love to have people on my team that are creative thinkers. Like, I'm not the kind of person who wants to say, do, A, B, C, D in exactly this way. I like to say, this is what I'm looking for. Show me what you can do. And then we go back and forth creatively. And then I have a project manager and I have a team of VAs. And what I love about my project manager is she does that. She says to me, oh, did you know that I could handle this? And, maybe I didn't think about that as being on my list that she could do. And I just go, yeah, wow, that would really help a lot. So, So it really helps. And I do the grocery delivery thing. I love it. I don't think I would ever go back, and I actually save money because you're not tempted. You're not in the store going, oh, I'll add some candy bars or, or some Cheetos,
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And so even though it costs to have it delivered and you're tipping, for me, it saves money, and it saves so much energy. And I think I don't have small kids anymore, but anybody with small kids, the grocery shopping thing with the kids of them like putting stuff in the cart and, the 3 and 4-year-old temper tantrums and stuff like that. What a huge savings to be able to do that. So I was just listening to an audiobook. It was Denise Duffield Thomas's book, Chill and Prosper. It's a really good book.
Okay.
And she was talking about things that she delegates. And I got a whole list of new ones because I was like, whoa, I wouldn't have even thought of that. Because, I was always thinking of what will help me with my family, what will help me with my kids. But she had so many things for herself. Like her assistant actually put snacks together for her, healthy snacks.
Wow.
And if you were hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning for a healthy snack and you had like a little bin of healthy snacks put together, how easy is that?
Right.
And then you're not having to think about it. And you're not having to be tempted by a cookie or a donut or something like that.
Right. And yeah, I was actually just sharing with a friend of mine this morning that it can be worth just trying out. If you're uncomfortable and like, I'm not sure an assistant would work for me, especially when it comes to virtual assistants. The current firm I'm working with, Get Friday, with my virtual assistant, they have packages that start at $65 a month for 5 hours of work. And so it's pretty easy to try it out and see if it works. You invest $65 and say, let me just try it. 5 hours of work and see how it helps me. And ask for, hey, take these quotes I found on the internet and put them on these Canva templates I made. And then I have 20 things I can post on my social media that are motivational for my, audience. Or, can they book you, eye appointments for your whole family? Or my assistant books me a chiropractor appointment once a month. And so, or takes my kid's school calendar and adds all those dates to my calendar. What are some things that are relatively straightforward that you could pass off just to give yourself a try at it and see how it goes? My virtual assistant is not local, so they can't make me healthy snacks, but they probably could order them to be delivered to my house if I asked.
Right. Exactly. Well, there's also a really good book called the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
And there's lots of great ideas in there. So, and what I think is we get stuck thinking about all the things that we're supposed to do or have to do. And if you read what other people are doing, it gives you a whole bunch of ideas on, wow, I really could delegate that. That's amazing. And, So, we have talked about so much here, and I know you have a freebie for everybody, and it is on the blog page at SheriKhoff.com. You can get her freebie link, but tell us what it is and how it benefits people.
Sure. So, you can I've got a number of freebies on my site, and we've got the one here is a really great resource for doing a polish week to kind of clean up your system. It doesn't need to be a full week. It could be just a half a day, but taking deliberate time to get the meetings off your calendar and really clean up and polish up your system. And just like you said, all those ideas that you want to get from other people. This is a list of all the things that you could do to kind of clean up your system so that every day moving forward, you are moving, just a little bit faster because you took the time to actually, update the software on your computer and fix that thing on your calendar and clean off your desk and a few other pieces that kind of hold you back in a given day. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with our listeners. And also, how can people find you if they want to explore more or hire you to do some projects?
Sure. Folks can find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Eastman Stewart. I love to talk about, life, work, balance, all of those things. And then I have a number of freebies on my site as well, jessicaeastmanstewart.com/freebies. You'll find that Polish Week, but you'll also find some other resources for folks at work, for parents, lots of different things that, just help people find more joy and ease.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I've really appreciated you being here with us today. You've given us a lot of value. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Sheri.
This episode is sponsored by the Living Your Vision course for creating your optimal life. This course is for creating and fulfilling your dream. Make your dreams your reality instead of a someday idea. Set your vision for your life in motion. Move from trying to be just a little bit better and shift to deliberately creating the life you want at the level you want. Most people are not purposely thinking small. They just have never considered or allowed themselves to think bigger or even on an epic level. Even big thinkers, perhaps you're one of them, often say, I just don't have time to devote to developing a detailed vision of how I want my life to be. What's stopping you from creating your vision the way you really want it? What if you let go of anything that is stopping or blocking you? What if you stepped into your creative zone and designed a compelling vision that drove all of your daily habits and decisions? You can check out the Living Your Vision course at SheriKayhoff.com. That's SheriKayehOff.com. And you'll want to go to the coaching and courses tab.